This video is going to show you Solo Master Nightfall getting platinum rank on the Warden of Nothing on a Hunter. The setup that we're using weapon wise is a auto rifle, the Krait, Stacy's auto rifle for overloads. Then we've got a Cartesian, a solar fusion rifle for DPS and assistance for champions, and then we're also using the exotic sword, the Lament. So we've got barrier and overload covered, not unstoppable, which these three champions, as you saw with the mods at the start of the video itself. So mainly we're going to be using obviously the classy restoration setup with high mobility stat, Ember of Solace that doubles up on that, restoration, and we're going to be using the weighted knife because the weighted knife one-shots these adds. For the particular light that I'm at, I can one-shot, so I can have basically a 100% uptime on Radiant if I want, because each ad that I'm killing, it's refreshing the Radiant buff. But it does also stack with other things. For example, high energy fire, which I did have on. I could have used a better mod though, probably powered melee Wellmaker as opposed to elemental ordnance, because that's what I had on. But the setup still worked, and it still was decent for the farm boss as well. So after that start section, I'm just going to skip these ads. I recommend that you do. You don't need to take them out. You can skip them pretty easily. If you're gonna run to the end like that, just make sure that you're fast enough so that you despawn the second train. Because if you don't, if you're a little bit slow, there'll be a second train. If there is, then obviously just go to the left or right, and then you can continue. This little section here, we've got the Hydra and an Unstoppable. We're still Radiant, so I'm going to take advantage of that while I've still got it. This Unstoppable is going to push us, so this is where we need to control the Unstoppable a little bit. I'm going to come back a little bit. We don't have a throw knife for that. We also have Marksman's Dodge on, not Gamblers. Gamblers would be nice because I could get more knives. Because when you dodge an enemy, you get your knife back. But the Marksman's Dodge is a lower cooldown, which means it's better for classy restoration. And that's what's going to keep you alive when you're playing this sort of playstyle. So, but we're just mainly going to just do damage to the Unstoppable with our sword and our fusion, obviously, and just sort of go in. No need for unstop. Now, obviously, if you're lower power, if you're in the 1570s, right, you wanna use a different loadout to what I'm using, right? Probably incorporate a glaive, stuff like that. You could go the loadout that I've actually got barrier, and then barrier lament, glaive in the energy slot, right, and then an overload auto. That would work well. But if you're in the 1580 range, you can start to sort of scrap some weapons and start using some weapons that make it easier to one cycle the boss, easier to do a lot of damage to all the champions, and not be so slow with that. So it's just a suggestion with the loadout itself. We're using the exotic Gauntlets, Shards of Galanor, so that it gives us increased super when we use it, or we get some super back when we've used it. If it's a good one, we're going to get half of it back. There is the Gauntlets, the Embrace Gauntlets or whatever, that actually unstop, they stop champions with the weighted knife. I've been trying it out, and they're buggy. So I wouldn't recommend them. It's not worth the slot, because half the time they don't work. If you don't know what I'm on about, as I said, check the collections. There's the Gauntlets that stop champions when you throw the knife at them. It's basically unstoppable melee for Solar on those Gauntlets. They're buggy, so I don't recommend using them. So you may as well just go with a decent setup like Shards of Galanor, stuff like that. Go for more damage than anything else. So this little section, I want to clear out all the ads, all the legendaries before I push this champ, because this champ can be awkward. They've actually changed this champ. I'm sure it used to be the solar one, now it's an arc one, like way back when it used to be. I'm sure it used to be solar. So it's just the blinding one, which is easy to deal with, right, because the solar one will melt you. Obviously acute burns on this, which is why I went all solar weapons. Okay, so the fusion rifle absolutely melts in this, and there's a modifier on ashes to assets or something not the super intellect mod for grenades. It's an actual Nightfall modifier, which if you have a solar weapon on it, scorches targets. Any solar weapon, even Lament will scorch targets. You'll notice when I'm actually clearing champs. I think that's the daily modifier though, and won't always be up. It can be combat acceleration and other stuff. But this is a very good one. But the ads can scorch you. Yeah. So, but it's not a problem because obviously we're on a really good build that way. We use our Blade Barrage here on the Hydra and the ads just to sort of clear out what we can. I'm not going to push for the barriers yet. You can do, obviously with Lament and stuff you can push, but I'm not going to quite push just yet because there's a couple of goblin spawns. If you are going to push, wait for the trains to go past, because obviously that's a wipe if you do. And we'll push for the left barrier first. The barrier on the right that's on the perch is the awkward one, right? I wouldn't recommend going for that sniper until you've got the goblins, right? The goblins keep spawning wave after wave, and eventually they do stop. At least take down that Hydra as well. Now I keep getting my knife back because obviously it's built into the subclass itself. This knife is very good. I know knife trick's good, right, on what it does, right, the free fan blades. But this knife here, it seems to do more damage. And I'll give you an example of that, because I tried this Nightfall at 15.8.4, 15.8.5 or 15.8.4, and the knife trick, the free fan blades wouldn't one-shot ads, which means I don't get my knife back. This knife does. It will one-shot red bars. It will one-shot orange bars as well if I'm radiant. Especially if you get the crit. But even if it bodies, even if it does a body shot, it hits to the body, it'll kill the ad, right? And I'll get my knife back. So this knife's very good. I don't know why people aren't using this particular knife. It's very good. But so is the free fan blade one, the typical Blade Barrage one, because it scorches targets, right? It's more for that. I missed my knife there as the boss teleported, but that's fine. We'll scorch him first with our nade. You'll see me do that a bit. Before you use a super, try to do to enhance it. Try and get radiant, right? And if you can as well, throw a nade just before, because you're scorching them as like before you start to super them. It makes the Blade Barrage even better than what it is. Okay. Not only that, acute solar burns on, so Blade Barrage is just a no-brainer. Celestial Night Hawk setup would be good in this as well. I'm actually very curious to see how much damage Celestial Night Hawk does to this boss. I'm not quite 1590 though, but I would like to try it at 1590 to, you know, we maybe track the cannon and see what damage it would do, because it also takes benefit from Radiant. So when you're Radiant, you use Celestial Night Hawk, the golden gun shot, you get a benefit there. So I'll be very interested because it's actually decent. Blade Barrage is obviously amazing, but so is golden gun, like the regular, not the 6-shooter, the one that you can get precision shots with. That's the one I'm on about. So we've got 2 unstoppables in this room. My only goal in this room is to take out those 2 unstoppables and a couple of the legionaries, I guess, that are surrounding, but not all the ads. I'm not going to deal with all the ads. I don't feel as though you need to, unless you're low on ammo. So we're just going to spam our Lament here. The Scorching's helping out for damage, because obviously the health pool of these unstoppables much higher than what they usually will be, because I'm not stopping them, of course, right? But it's, again, as I said, it's not a problem because of Nightfalls now, and they're easier. Nightfalls are now the easiest they've ever been. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I don't know, because we need to see when GMs come out, but they are the easiest they've ever been. And that's directly because of resilience. And that's not just because of Solar. Like, imagine Solar 3.0 didn't come out, but they'd done the resilience change. They would basically still be easy, because now the game's more consistent with everything, the damage that you take. Apart from physics, that's something different. That's where adds are teleporting on you, and then the physics in the game's still bad. But the damage you take from general adds where you get sniped, the damage from that is consistent. So you can plan on what you're gonna and the risks that you take in combat now. It's a massive difference. The game, it's like a different game now because of that. And I, for one, would rather play a more consistent game in that respect, as opposed to what we have been playing. Russian roulette GMs. Russian roulette GMs, you don't know what's going to happen at times. There's so much stuff that has went on over the years, because they've been out a while now. But I think a lot of people will be surprised when GMs come out how consistent they'll be to run. Problem is, you won't be able to farm them like we want to, because of that silly node thing isn't going to come up. So you're still gonna, when you lose your CP, you lose it. You can only farm that Nightfall up on the week it comes out, which is a shame. But all the Nightfalls are easier than usual this season because they're all Cabal based, just about, apart from Corrupted. So what I'm doing is setting off a couple of mines. There's A, B, C. Now you want to set off these mines in advance because it helps out when you're capturing the zones. They could wipe you. You know, while you're dealing with ads. My frames, I don't know why my frames are so low there when I'm shooting this auto. But I don't recommend, you don't have to take out all the mines, let's be honest, right? You're not going to be going everywhere, especially the strat that I'm going to be using. But at least take them out on A, B and C, right? And any others that it might be in your way. Do all that in advance because you're going to obviously be timed shortly. I'm sure that you're aware of that you're going to be timed. So do all that stuff in advance. So we're going to let the barriers, the Vex barriers, do some damage for us to the Unstoppable while I do some damage. So I'm going to actually make myself Radiant, scorch him with the nade, do some extra scorch with my fusion, the Cartesian. This is why I'm using it. It has slide, shot and Vorpal weapon. So the Vorpal's very good on this fusion. Obviously it's doing extra damage to champions and the boss. I've also got boss spec in it for good reason as well. I didn't need the major spec in it. The boss spec's more important because you want to be one cycle on the boss. But as I said, if you're below like the 1580 mark, then your approach will be different, and I've already covered on how you can exploit the boss, where you can stand if you need to do that. And you can do it on all classes, and it's fine to do it. And it wouldn't even take that much longer than what this is. Maybe add an extra 2 minutes to it. So it's no big deal. But as I said, try this if you're a hunter main. Try this if you're above 1580. You should be able to do it. So obviously the capture points have come up, but I'm going to kill some of the ads before we cap A. Because it makes it easier for later. Also, for this Nightfall, you can skip one champion. You can choose which champion that is as well. So when you want to choose that is on this on the ABC, because you're going to get an Unstoppable and Overload. Obviously, I don't have Unstoppable, so it's in my best interest to go for the Overload. You can skip either of them. Pick. I think it's better for the Overload for me, because at least I can stun him, and I'm not wasting so much ammo. Because I'll have to waste about 20 sword ammo on that Unstoppable to take him down. You know, and Famine's on, so I chose to just use a super on the Overload, stun him, which the Overload will be pushing the Cabal at B, which is why I capture A, then C, then I come under this tunnel, use my super, which will just about generally kill the Overload. I'll get a dodge halfway because I know I'm going to be weak after taking that damage. Then we get the Classy Restoration, of course, and then we can cap B. Any adds the push, if you feel threatened, use your fusion. Don't be frightened. Don't spam your fusion though, because if you haven't got the ammo you need, like if you haven't got any extra ammo bricks on the floor, like I'm on about a couple, then don't be like spamming loads of shots, because you need a couple of shots for the boss. But Lament, however, I would recommend that you kind of just spam it. So we're going to pick up the Scorch Cannon, which does actually scorch, just like Solar 3.0, so it's interesting how this reacts. But you get 10 shots. Now, if you do the mechanic where you hold down the charge, you do massive damage. At max charge, you'll do massive damage to this boss. You can see the damage I'm doing. We can dodge any time we're weak. Right, and then we're just going to keep using our cannon on the boss. There's this Cabal push me, so I used a couple of shots there. We won't use our super though. I don't feel as though I needed to, but I could have done that. But I guess it's more so showing off the cannon. That's the boss dead. If you were low on ammo, I recommend that you don't kill the boss and you kill some of the adds in hopes of getting some green or heavy ammo bricks. Because going with no, like little to no ammo, you're gonna have to probably do the exploit then if that's gonna happen. Because you can't rely on definitely the champs dropping you ammo. They may not. And there's no way of getting, you know, more ammo after all those enemies are killed, unless you actually start the boss fight. But once you start the boss fight, you're timed, obviously, and this is just showing you the one cycle on him. So what I'm trying to do is not bug out this Nightfall. Now, what you do, how you do that is you stop that you don't rush the game, because you can see there's dialogue happening. So don't rush down to the bottom. Now, I took it slow and it's still bugged out. What I mean by that is the champions aren't spawning, therefore the boss doesn't spawn in, therefore you need to wipe to get them to spawn in. This is actually going to be a big deal on GMs. Right now it's not a big deal. You can wipe, you've got masters have checkpoint based. GMs don't. You will go to orbit. So if this happens on a solo run, which has happened to me on the GM level in previous seasons, the run is over, I have to start the whole thing again. Because it's bugged. Because I can't wipe because extinguish is on and you'll go to orbit. So you need to be very careful with this. They need to fix this before GMs come out. If they don't fix it, there's going to be so many people complaining. I can already see it. Because teams will rush. People rush. You see, whenever you see people play this strike, they always rush to the bottom. When war happens, it bugs out. And that's going to happen on GMs. That's where people at that level, they start to, you know, get irritated. It irritates me as well, to be honest. You know, because this bug was in the game 6 months ago, plus. It's maybe longer than that. It's maybe up to a year. I haven't looked back when this first originated from, but it's got to be. It's coming up a year. This. You know, so here you get the champions spawning. I wiped. You know, so they've spawned in, so now we're okay. When you drop down, if the overload is in a good spot, you can do this. Stun him from up here and the barrier will absolutely melt the overload. Right? I recommend that if you can do that, do it. It's just one less job to do when you go down there. Because when you go down there, you can't come back up here. Or it's difficult to get back up. Right? So that's the overload dealt with. That means that if we get a champion to push, it will only be unstoppable, which is not too bad. We can't stop him, but it's not too bad. We can manipulate him by going behind cover and stuff. I'm radiant, so I'm going to try and take advantage of that damage, making sure that we get a dodge after we're done. I'm worried that the unstoppable is getting too close to the barrier, which could kill us no matter what, even if we've got classy restoration. If we stand in his fire for too long, he will just out-kill us, despite that. So I'm going to get a dodge here as soon as, because he's blinding us, which isn't too bad. It's his solar attack that's his minigun that's the worst thing. But the barrier will be fixated on the Vex barrier. So I'm taking these champs out in order. I pay attention to which way I'm taking them. I believe this is the best way of doing it. So overload first, then unstoppable at the back of the map, then the Cabal, and then leave the Vex till the end. I'm trying to get Charge of Light off this champion, and I messed it up. I didn't end up getting the champ low enough when I needed him, as I had Elemental Ordnance on. He wasn't low enough there, so I probably should have ran fusion grenades for that. Or, as I said, because I don't want to use my knife yet. That's critical. Don't use your knife yet. You want Radiant for the boss. Okay? So the idea of this is we're going to stand back a little bit, Radiant with your knife, play Barrage, right, then switch to your fusion, and then just use your fusion. He will one-shot you if you're below 15.84, 15.83, like when you get close with the sword. That's why I just went with the fusion here, it just melts him. And that's basically the one cycle on him and the solo on this. Hope you enjoy, thank you.